Hi, I'm RandomTrashy, welcome to the channel. This is going to be my Q&A video. It's going to be a very informal video. I'm going to cover some questions that I've been sent in over the last couple of weeks on social media. I've got some really interesting questions. It may be a slightly long video, but hopefully it will give you a good understanding about me, about the channel, and I'm going to cover some really interesting subjects as well. I'll give you a sneak peek of some of the upcoming stuff that I've got coming to the channel. So I'm going to kick this off with the first question. It was on Instagram. It's from airsoftvixen, and it says, how did you first come across Airsoft? I first come across Airsoft on Facebook. A friend of mine, Tom Horwood, put some photos up of him in full military kit. Essentially, he had DPM 95s on, he had DPM webbing, and he also had a 249 with like a boonie hat and stuff, and he was in some woodland, and I thought they were like staged photos. I thought it was like prop work or something. You know, you can get like these photos done of like you as a cowboy or whatever. I genuinely thought it was that. I knew that Tom wasn't in the army or wasn't military. I just was very curious about the photos. They looked really, really awesome, the way that they were done, and he explained to me what Airsoft was. Quite funny that I've been paintballing numerous times with birthday parties, stag parties, all that sort of thing, but I've never actually come across Airsoft. So Tom literally opened the doors to me. I went around his house, showed me a load of guns, showed me how they worked, you know, the sort of engagement distances. We started looking at some stuff on YouTube, and I just started nosing around the internet about what Airsoft was. And Tom actually took me to my first game as well, which I owe him massively for. So yeah, thanks for the introduction to this, Tom. And thank you, AirsoftVixen, for your question. Next question was on Instagram, and it was by A Bulbasaur. It says, what is your opinion on support weapons in regards to Milsim? I think any kit with Milsim is always operation dependent. It really depends on the landscape, what your tasking is, whether you're playing like a special forces group, whether you're playing a PMC role, if you're a Taliban or you're an infidel or whatever you want to call it, or whether you're a private militia. It really does depend upon that role. You have to kind of run your loadout according to that you know, that scenario. But what I would say on the whole is I think that you need variety within a team. And I've noticed that with the guys that I run with, it's great having, you know, 6 guys with M4s, but when you come under certain types of fire, or you get yourself in a scenario like we did, so for example, we were at Stanta, it's a very urban area, we were all carrying M4s, it meant that all of our engagement distances were the same, our rate of fire were invariably the same, and our capacities for magazines were the same. The issue with that is that if you're giving the rest of the guys covering fire and you're moving a large squad, you're going to be much better doing that with a support weapon. The same as if you were laying down any sort of cover fire for allowing your team to move, you can do that a lot better with a support weapon. Funny enough, I was just talking about my friend Tom Horwood, who got me introduced to this. He actually runs the 249. He always plays a support role. It is a very heavy gun to lug around, but it does mean it can carry a ton of rounds. And when we are trying to move around on the field, he's always the person to get down prone, lay a ton of plastic down, and allow the team to move. So I think they're very important, and I think that teams do need to be varied, although it is situation dependent. So I'm going to jump on to the next question. And that is from hypermanbb, the Instagram rock star of Airsoft. He's got a ton of followers. If you don't follow Hyperman, go and check him out. He's got a ton of followers. He's always throwing up really cool photos of loadouts and stuff. And he says, do you think the recent events with Stanta, CAG, and some other guys in the Milsim scene will be the start and end of Milsim in the UK and maybe even Europe? If you don't know about this whole scenario, I'm not going to start digging it up now, but essentially a company has gone to one of the very famous sites in the UK, which is known as Stanta. It's a real military training ground that the UK MOD allow airsofters to use. It's frequently used by Sterling Combat Airsoft Group and some other companies. Sterling Combat Airsoft Group, probably the largest and the most well respected out of all of these companies. A third company or a third party company had actually gone and used it for the weekend, broke a ton of rules, left the place in an absolute state, and the MOD have seen how that site had been used by airsofters and had actually pulled it from use from the rest of the airsoft companies. So companies that have previously used it and had a great working relationship with the MOD, like Combat Airsoft Group and Stanta, have actually lost that facility for the foreseeable future. So that is what he's referencing to. And I totally agree. I think it's a great question to ask. You can, as a business, go out there, get a bit of land, start an airsoft company, and invite people on to play with very minimal knowledge of airsoft itself, how the game should be run, and orchestrating a business. At the end of the day, this company turned up there, they put on a very poor event, and I've heard this from numerous players. You know, I'm not just going to say this out of line. You know, I've got probably a nearly 1,000-word message from one of the players who was absolutely appalled at the conditions and the way that the event was run, and let me in on exactly what happened there, and essentially why the event space was pulled, which was a real shame. And it very quite possibly could be an end to Milsim in the UK at MOD sites. And that has to be a clear part of this. You know, if you've got an old abandoned warehouse and you want to run a 48-hour Milsim event, you can do that. Essentially, the Milsim aspect of it means that you are taking away skirmish elements like capture the flag, or, you know, team deathmatch, that sort of thing, and actually pushing it to more of a military orientated weekend. So anyone can run a Milsim. I definitely think it could be the end of us being able to use amazing sites like Stanta, Copehill Down, Catterick, and tons more of them, but they are the famous ones. So it's a very good question, and I think that for the future use of those sites, people need to be very aware of what the rules are as a business. They need to stick to them. They need to appreciate the rules that are put into line by the MOD, and they should, you know, really give the respect to companies like Combat Airsoft Group and Sterling Airsoft. They've been using those sites for a long period of time and have a very good working relationship, and another company's come along and potentially ruined that for all of us. So there will be no games at Stanta for the foreseeable future, which is a real shame, and potentially Copehill Down, two of my absolute favourite urban sites. So yeah, that company that put those games on has potentially blacklisted those for the rest of us, which is a real shame. Thedekkodoesairsoft, this is on Instagram. Have you ever come across people that didn't understand the airsoft, and what did you say to them? Yes. Being a 30-year-old male with a family and a wife and a child, telling people that I run around the woods at the weekend with a plastic gun shooting at other people. Sometimes I get the look that I'm insane, and sometimes people think that I'm just a big child. So yes, it's very difficult trying to explain it to people, especially some of the people I work with in central London that have never even heard of it, and they kind of look down on paintball and go and having a bit of fun like that, let alone laying in a muddy puddle all weekend just to shoot someone with a little plastic pellet. What do I say to them? I kind of show them pictures. I think it's always easier to explain airsoft with pictures, and when people see you in all the kit, and like, you know, I showed some of the guys some of the pictures from the weekend. They are over on my Facebook, so facebook.com/RandomTrashy, some pictures of me all gillied up, got my sniper rifle, my face painted and stuff. They're really cool photos, they come out really well, and I just show them, and I think they understand it a little bit more. It is like playing dress up and going out and having good fun with some friends and shooting people. Although I do like to take it quite serious, the people that don't kind of understand it, I don't try and drum it into them too much. I think they see the pictures are normally quite, you know, they get it. It's like super advanced paintball for someone who's a little bit geeky. That's how I would put it forward. So yeah, sometimes people just don't get it, but it is what it is. Moving on from that, right, the next one is Coop20, and this is on Instagram as well. Why do you put so much money into airsoft when you could spend it on real steel? I would imagine that this guy is American. Why do I put so much money into airsoft? I don't feel that I do actually put that much money into airsoft, to be completely honest. I have always kind of really gone into all of my hobbies. You know, I've mountain biked, I've BMX'd for a long period of time, and during those times I spent thousands on my hobbies, breaking parts, replacing parts, getting better parts. When I was into cars, I always did the same. You know, I was always upgrading them and doing bits to them and stuff like that. So I've always spent money on my hobbies, and I don't particularly class this as an expensive one. You know, when I was downhilling, I spent £2,000 on a frame. I saved every penny for probably nearly a year. I was working in a factory, and you know, I saved every penny, literally every single penny, to go and buy a frame for downhilling. So I don't particularly think that I spend all that much. I'm very lucky with the companies that I work with, that they do send me a lot of kit. Some of it I send back, some of it I keep, some of it I get a discounted rate on, and that sort of stuff. So you know, that does really help. But I don't feel that I spend excessive money. And moving on to the real steel stuff, I love airsoft. I've shot a lot of real steel recently. I'm very lucky that my dad's a full licensed firearms owner, and we get to go down and shoot some real steel. There is some videos on the channel of me shooting 223 M4 and a 308 sniper rifle. Absolutely loved it, but it's very different going out and hunting someone down and using my cunning and wit to kind of outthink people and try and outplay people, and that's really interesting with airsoft. And that's why the money's pushed towards this rather than real steel. Going and sitting and plinking a 300-yard target continuously, you can do it for 20 minutes, but it soon gets quite boring. And with something like a 308 or a 223, you know, I shot out to 400 yards my first time shooting, and it was pretty easy. You know, you could hit your man's shaped target or size target without a problem. So I just feel that airsoft is more exciting out of the two, and it's a lot more varied. There's a lot more different environments that you can play in, and yeah, I would rather spend my money on something that I'm going to do a lot more often. Getting down to hive is very rare for me, so being able to get down there and shoot is probably once every 3 or 4 months, where if I want I can play airsoft every single weekend. So that's why I'd rather put the money into something that I do a lot more often. Moving on from that, Bradley R10 on Instagram said, have you ever thought about UKSF Loadout? Yes, I have thought about UKSF Loadout. Then something that's probably a little bit more difficult to achieve, essentially, because a lot of the higher end kit, then you do have to spend the money. You know, some of the UKSF kit that I've seen being used is like Arc'teryx Leaf kit that they wear, and those jackets are like £600. So to do kind of a legit, as they say, reenactment style of the UKSF Loadout would be mega expensive, and I don't really want to run into that. You know, I've still got a list of kit that I'd like to buy just to be able to achieve a good standard at Milsim. So I'd love to do one, but the cost would probably be astronomical to do it really well. Next question is from karlogrady on Instagram. How do you increase the accuracy of a well L96? That is a massively big question, and it really depends on what you want to do with the gun, how much you want to spend, all those sort of things. There is tons of videos over on my channel about the L96. My channel was founded around upgrades for the L96 sniper rifle. When I looked online originally, there was no videos. I spent loads of time tinkering. I got it really accurate, to the point where it was hitting a 2-inch wide scaffold pole at about 60 meters, and it would hit that pretty much every single shot. So I've got my L96 actually to a point where it is incredibly accurate, and there is some videos on the channel how to do that. Essentially, you need to take all of the wobble out of the hop up. You need to get yourself a really good hop up bucking, a really good tight bore barrel, and make sure that your spring, suction cup, piston and cylinder cylinder setup is giving you the most consistent FPS going. So the consistent FPS rating, if you're getting 20 FPS jumps between your power, you know, if you chrono your L96 and it's like, say, 480, then 500, then 510, then 470. If you're getting those massive jumps, that will give you inconsistent accuracy. If you want really good accuracy, you need to make sure that you get all of that shooting as tight a FPS grouping as possible, and you'll find that that will reflect on your accuracy and will give you a really accurate gun. There's loads of videos back on the channel, so if you are interested in that, go back to the really early videos. I've got deconstruction videos, hop up mod tutorials. I've also got a hop up video as well on the channel, so you can go and check that out. So karlogrady, go and do that. Bradley Hardman on Twitter said, do you like the Bullp Design, and would you ever buy one? You've probably talked about the silverback sniper rifles. I actually spoke to Silverback about 1.5 years ago, maybe a little bit longer, when their first kind of prototype design came out, and the FPS ratings then were very low. They were about 400 FPS, and I said, you know, for a sniper rifle, that's not that good. Although the setup, you know, you can get accuracy out of lower FPS guns, the majority of guns that are out there, especially with the sniper setup, are going to be 500 FPS, if not a little bit more. So, you know, there was that conversation that we had. Also, the price at the time was looking to be at about $600-700, so about 450 pounds. And I just said it's very expensive, considering you can go and buy a Tokyo Maori VSR 10 for say £190, spend 50-60 quid on it and have a phenomenally accurate gun. A big advocate for the VSR10 is Bullp Airsoft. I've got to meet Wayne a couple of times now. A really nice guy. If you haven't met Bullp or you haven't seen any of his videos, his sniper videos, I'll put a link in the description. You've got to go check him out. He's a big advocate for the VSR10, whereas I'm more of an advocate for the L96 setup. So yeah, the Bullp Design, the only reason I don't like it is because laying prone, the magazine well hits the ground first, and it means that the gun's level is actually very high off the ground, and if you're going to lay prone with it, which is where I do a lot of shooting prone, your body has to kind of be arched up and you have to lift the gun up on the tripod. I've always been told to keep everything as low to the ground as possible, and that will help with your accuracy, so I'm not a massive fan of them, no. The next question is on Facebook. It's from Lennon, and he says, what made you start Airsoft and make a YouTube channel? So Tom Horwood actually started me in Airsoft. I was really interested in it. I used to be a gamer. I used to play a lot of Call of Duty, Battlefield and all that sort of stuff, and the idea of actually going out and shooting people for real was a massive buzz. So that's what really got me hooked on Airsoft. It was kind of being against someone for real. It wasn't just outwitting someone on the internet by playing the maps well or being sneaky or whatever you want to call it, outwitting someone. It was actually that capability of going out and doing it for real life, and that's why I've taken up the sniper role. I love the sniper role, that's what I've always played. Even from the very beginning of this channel, it was always sniper orientated, and I started it because I bought myself a Well L96. The gun turned up in pieces, had to build it myself. Literally build everything myself. Even the hop-up arm was off of the hop-up. I built that gun myself. It fired literally like blowing a pea through a straw. It was terrible, and I got it to a point, as I said, that was super accurate, and the gun is still upstairs. It's still accurate. There's videos of me at, I think it's about 45 feet hitting a 2p coin. There is a video of it on the channel. You can go and check that out. The gun is incredibly accurate, and that's why I started the channel, to share that knowledge with people, and to show people how you can get a really accurate sniper rifle. The next question is from Airsoft Gear Review, guys. I love you guys. We have so much banter on YouTube. Is there any gear that you wear that is not multicam? Yes, there's tons of kit that I have that's not multicam. My claw gear jacket is Coyote. I've got loads of Coyote kit. My new trousers from Claw Gear, the operator trousers, they've got a review coming of them soon. They're like a woodland-esque panel. There's photos on Facebook at the moment of me wearing them. They're absolutely awesome. Yeah, I've got tons. I've got full ghillie suit. I've got a woodland leaf suit from Jack Pike that I wear quite a lot. It's really good for blending in, especially in the winter in the UK. So yes, Airsoft Review, guys, I do have lots of other kit that is not multicam. Sam Flinders on Facebook, this is, how long have you been playing Airsoft? Where is your favourite site, and what's your favourite milsim you have ever done? Wow. Okay, I've been playing Airsoft for about 4 or 5 years, quite intensively. Where's your favourite site? My favourite urban site is probably Catterick. And I say that because the first time I went there with Sterling Airsoft Group. I took my sniper rifle. I didn't own an AEG at the time. I had a very basic loadout that was simply a pistol, my sniper rifle, and I had about 4 magazines for it that I had to constantly bomb up. They were like 20 round mags. I got into the, they call it the fire station, but it's essentially a 5-storey tower, and got onto the 3rd floor of that and absolutely destroyed. I was just in there for maybe 3 or 4 hours till it got absolutely pitch black. I had the whole 3rd floor locked down. I had guys on the basement floor, and I just literally, everyone within maybe 50-60 metres I was hitting. And one of my first events out with the Sterling guys. So yeah, Catterick's probably my favourite urban. My favourite rural is probably Otterburn. And this ties in with my favourite event. Otterburn I did with Combat Airsoft Group. If you haven't heard of Combat Airsoft Group, these guys run the best milsim, the most legit, real, hard grinding milsim events that probably in Europe, let alone the UK. I went to Otterburn with them. It's on the Scottish border. It's almost like Scottish Highland moorland. It's boggy, it's steep. It's undulating, the ground is extremely hard to cover. It's where a lot of the UK military go and do a lot of training out on their open ground. I went there in November, I think it was, of not last year, the year before. It was absolutely awesome, best event I've ever done, the best run event that I've ever done, and the hardest taskings, and I've never pushed myself so hard at anything. I come away from that weekend absolutely broken, and I learned so much. The DS staff there was amazing. I'm not going to drop any names or anything, but our DS staff member was a gunnery sergeant. He'd done 26 years in the military. I learned more from him in 6 hours than I probably have in all of my years playing airsoft. So I owe a lot to Combat Airsoft Group. They have taught me a lot. They've allowed me to push myself physically and mentally, and they've actually pushed my game further forward by doing their events. Now, that doesn't, kind of take away anything that I've done with any other company, but what I got back from walking away from Combat Airsoft Group, I really felt like I hadn't ever come away from an event with that much buzz and that much hype and that exhausted and that, pushing myself so hard. We got to the point where the guys in my team and myself were literally blowing smoke. We just completely burnt ourselves out, and we had another operation to do, and we had a long infield to get there. We had to get into an OP, we had to observe, we had to get a life cycle of what was going on at the target building. And at this point we were all absolutely blowing, and we knew that we had to go and strike it and take that building down. So yeah, it really did push me, and the Combat Airsoft Group definitely helped me kind of push my game further forward. So I owe a lot to those guys. I have got a couple more questions. I know it's been quite a long video, so I will try and wrap it up soon. And this is from Mark Chalmers, and it says, what do you think is the best loadout for a new Milsim player? Again, it really depends on the landscape and kind of orientation of what you're playing at, but what I would recommend for a new Milsim player would be a basic chest rig. Don't go for a full plate carrier, because you're probably going to have a backpack full of stuff on your back, especially if it's say 48, 72 hour. So do a nice light chest rig, an M4 with minimal furniture. Don't dress it up with a torch and an IR and a strobe and grips and handles and different sights. Just get a decent optic that's going to work, that's waterproof, that will work in all weathers. And if you have a PEC box, make sure you mark your rail and tuck it away, and then put it on when you need to. Don't have loads of furniture on your gun that's going to get in the way, because if you trip, fall, run around, it's going to get bashed and knocked and that sort of thing. It's best to just hit a handguard than it is all your furniture. So strip it right down. If you don't use your pistol often, if you haven't drawn your pistol in an airsoft game in the last 5-6 games, don't take it, it's extra weight. Make sure you've got really good sturdy dry boots, Gore-Tex boots if you can get them, a good pair of comfy trousers. Make sure that they've got a good seat on them, or covering for your bum. If you're taking a knee and your bum is on your heel of your boot a lot, which will probably be muddy and wet, you do not want to make sure that you get your bum absolutely soaking wet, because if you've got a backpack on, if you're carrying anything, it'll rub and it'll make the bottom of your bum and your back sore. So make sure you've got a good pair of trousers, decent jacket. Make sure you've got a nice lightweight waterproof jacket. You can get them very, very cheap. Just go and get a Coyote Tan one online, just like a little windbreaker jacket to keep the water off you, and that's it really. Good eye protection, but I say that about all airsoft. Make sure you've got some nice ballistic eye protection. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Good boots, nice light rig, a decent gun that is not covered in furniture and crap. Just strip it down to the basics, some good mags, and you'll be good to go. Other than that, make sure that you always check the kit list that the site provides, and you should be all good. Okay, for you guys that have stuck around right to the end, I'm going to cover a few more questions that I get asked quite frequently. One of them is young players doing milsims and playing airsoft. Now, there's a very big difference between the two, so I'm just going to cover young players playing airsoft in general. I think it's great. I think that if I was introduced to airsoft when I was much younger, say maybe 15, 16, I would be much better at it now, for one. But two, I think it would have stopped me spending so much time sat in front of the computer playing COD. It would allow me to socialise more, allow me to get out and actually you know, exert myself, you know, and actually do some exercise and that sort of thing, and spend some more time actually out on my feet and not on my bum just playing the computer. So I think young kids playing airsoft is awesome. I don't think that anyone should pick on them and give them shit because of what kit they've got on or what they wear or anything like that. I think young kids should just get out and enjoy it and have fun with airsoft. And that's going to do skirmish days, have fun at, you know, doing weekenders and camping overnight and all that sort of thing. I think it's great. Moving on to the milsim side of things, it depends how serious you're talking milsim wise. There is some companies out there classing their games as milsim, but essentially they've just got Taliban vs SF, and you know, they've got to make sure you raid a few buildings. But for me, that's a skirmish. A milsim for me is a 48, 72 hour orientated event where you've got a pre-planned mission pack. There is intel that you have to gather, you have to tab, you have to spend the time out on the ground. You know, you're going to be under minimal cover. You need to make sure that you can self-sustain yourself for the entire weekend. This is not going to be having a burger van on site and anything like that. This is full military specification tasking for the weekend and being completely self-sufficient for you and your team. So that's what I'd class as a milsim. I do think that, you know, young guys will be able to do it. But I don't think all young people will be able to do it, and I'll just say that off of going to Otterburn and some of the other events that have been done with myself, with Sterling and with Combat Airsoft Group. Going to the Valley, I would not want a 16-year-old lad there carrying around the Bergen with 4 litres of water, all of his sleeping kit, cooking kit, wet kit, dry kit, food for the weekend, spare ammunition and all that sort of thing on their back. Walking over some of the terrain that I know is there. It's very, very steep, it can be very wet, it can be very slippery, and you do need some good upper body strength and core strength to keep yourself nice and stable and not slip on anything and roll down the hill and cause yourself some serious damage. I say that, I've seen full grown men, military, ex-military guys have some incidents at the Valley and be very seriously hurt. You know, we had to medevac a guy that actually fallen on his hip. I'm not sure if it was broken or dislocated, but it was an injury nonetheless that was very, very serious. So yeah, I think some of the milsims you should be a little bit older to do, but it doesn't mean that you should be writing them off. I think go enjoy airsoft, play it, and then when you feel more comfortable staying out for the weekend, you feel like you've got the kit to be able to go and do a milsim, go and do, you know, like a day long, more serious tasking, you know, one that's maybe like 8 in the morning till 10 o'clock at night that I've seen some sites do, and then go and try, you know, a 24-hour event, see how you get along. And then, you know, work your way up to the, you know, Combat Airsoft Group level of events. So yeah, that's what I think with young guys doing milsim. The other thing I get asked about a lot, and I did want to cover this right at the end as a bit of a sort of bonus, is getting sponsored. I'm going to do a video on it. I get asked all the time how I've got my relationships with people and companies and businesses and all that sort of thing, and there's no magic to it. It's hard work. It is showing them something that you know that you can provide something back for them. Don't ever think that you're just going to phone a company and they're going to send you kit for free. It genuinely doesn't work like that. And a few people expect that, and I've seen a few well-known people within the airsoft community get shot down very quickly by turning up and saying, well, I've got so many followers, send me free kit. They're not gonna, you know, it doesn't work like that. You have to think business minded. You have to give them something in return for them sending you out kit. At the end of the day, they need to cover their costs of what they're sending you, and you need to kind of give something back to the business. So I will do a more in-depth video on getting sponsored. There are companies out there that are looking for people to sponsor. I know that, I've spoke to them. So, you know, there is definitely businesses out there looking for other airsofters to promote their equipment in exchange for, you know, them sending you goodies. But I will do another video. Hopefully that's going to cover everything. I know it's a super long video. Thank you very much for sticking around if you are here right at the end. I've got tons of new stuff coming to the channel, so make sure you stay tuned. You know, if you've enjoyed this, if you want to ask any more questions, stick them in the box below, drop the video a like and a sub to the channel. It's always much appreciated. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you all soon.